It's Patrick Beatty Reviews, the number one for news. It's Patrick Beatty Reviews, number one for news. Yeah. Tune in, get up. Yeah, what's up?
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
What is up, my Gaggle of Geeks, and welcome to another episode. We're going to be talking about King Richard and The Power of the Dog. These are both heavy hitters when it comes to the for your considerations and when it comes to Oscars time with voting and when you're wanting to like place your bets for these things. I know everybody's doing that, but I cannot be the only one reviewing this. I need to have an expert with me, and I do have someone that is covering press junkets like crazy. She's going and meeting with all the celebrities. It's Kathia from Cup of Soul. How is it going?
Yeah, it's our crazy time of year. You know, it's kind of like our Super Bowl, except it lasts forever.
No, absolutely. And for people that don't know, Cup of Soul, it's a website. It's also a YouTube channel. What do you do there, and what are the things that people can expect right now?
Well, the site was started because I basically wanted to highlight filmmakers, Black filmmakers of African Americans, Latinx, and women, right? Mm-hmm. And also highlight more up and coming, because everybody started at some point. And I've been pretty good. I have a pretty good sense of hunch. I had a good feeling about Jonathan Majors, and look at him. He's out here, you know, flourishing like he should be. Mm-hmm. And just, you know, a couple other people that are doing well or have been picked up by other people. So I think part of this is we all, you know, we get that the bigger stuff gets the traffic, but people also want to read about what's next and be introduced to things. And some of them, for me personally, as a person who loves film, some of my favorite films have been the smaller films, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think last year we saw that smaller films really saved our lives because we didn't get those big studio films. So that's what the creative for. And then on the YouTube channel, we get to have a little bit more fun because it's mainly like junkets. But I've also been lucky to talk to people who've made serious work, you know, and work that, you know, like Pray Away is a film that is, you know, you can't dismiss it, or Audible puts you in the mindset of, or helps you understand what it's like to be deaf, right? And I think right now we're having a very great conversation about disabled actors, from The Eternals to Coda to that.
I love you mentioning Coda.
Know what I mean? Where, you know, we're starting to understand that those stories matters. And one thing, you know, whatever you may feel about the Eternals, is that part was perfect. She didn't feel disjointed from the other actors because she happens to be deaf. The conversations were fluid from speaking to signing. And I think that's a great example of how to utilize actors that have disabilities without making it seem weird or othering them.
No, absolutely. And I think you make a great point that independent films really did save cinema last year. And this year we are getting some of the films that didn't even come out last year because they were delayed. So I feel like it's almost an embarrassment of riches with how many films that we're getting. And it's almost overwhelming at times. Like we were just talking before, that's just like, we're just constantly busy with things like this. But with that being said, please go and follow her. Check out Cup of Soul show and see all of the creators that are being brought into this. It's fantastic. But first, let's get into our first review, which is King Richard. Now, King Richard came out. It screened for us a couple weeks ago. You had the opportunity to actually be at one of the premieres, right?
I saw it here in Philadelphia. So I actually flew home when it premiered at AFI, right?
Okay.
Because I was like, I was in LA for 6 days. So that was a lot already. But it is a film, but obviously, you know, Will is from Philadelphia. I live in the Philadelphia area. So it is definitely something that, you know, the hometown team is watching, and the hometown team is very much excited about, you know what I mean? He was just here to promote his book. So obviously a lot of people that helped him in his career, the beginning of his career, before he was an actor and global superstar, got a chance to kind of like reconnect with him and celebrate him, which I think is really, really important, because if it wasn't for that chapter, he wouldn't be where he is right now.
That's so true. Like his, and it is a little full circle coming to this film with him in a sense trying to bring his caliber back up to that Oscar level. And this is about Venus and Serena Williams' father, Richard Williams. It's a look at the tennis superstars, how they got started, and kind of the family dynamic of how he was able to drive them to their potential. Maybe some controversial things about how maybe his approach to it was, and how it was a little bit unorthodox when it came to the tennis community. But because the tennis community never really had black players, it needed to be shaken up in a lot of ways. I think this is honestly one of Will Smith's best performances that he's done. And I think while maybe the focus towards the end could have shifted a little bit more towards Venus and Serena, in my opinion, I think that this is definitely one of those where he's going to be up for nominations. But what did you think after seeing King Richard?
I agree with you. I felt like this is the first role in forever where Will wasn't just being movie star Will, right?
Yeah.
Where he had some material where he had to go out of his comfort zone. He didn't have his charms, his good looks, his jokes, you know what I mean? His humor to rely on. He kind of like, he had to dig a little bit deeper because A, he's playing a real person, and number two, because Venus and Serena were involved as executive producers.
Oh, okay.
And also, you know, the family, I believe their older sister was on set. You know, just making sure that the story, you know, kept its integrity as they should. And so there's a different element on there, you know, and also a lot of us remember Richard, right? And also he's not dead, but he's not as popular as he used to be. But we remember him in those news conferences and people calling him crazy and unorthodox and all of this. And lo and behold, everything he said concerning the girls not only came true, but it exceeded everything that he said that they will accomplish. And it really, the reason why a lot of other young Black girls are able now, you know, that the Naomi's, the Cocos, and the list goes on, are playing the game is because they saw Venus and Serena. So I think Will understood that this was bigger than just him. And I agree with you. We forgot how good of an actor he is, and he's really good in this.
Absolutely. What was the last? I mean, yeah, what was the last big Will Smith performance that? I mean, there was Collateral Beauty whenever that came out, but like, what was one of the bigger contenders other than, I mean, Ali?
The Pursuit of Happiness. He was.
Oh, there we go.
You know what I mean?
I couldn't remember which came out first between those two.
And it is a fine line, you know what I mean? Because he is a global box office star, and I'm sure he likes doing some stuff that's not as heavy too. And Will still gets a good paycheck. His box office numbers are still very solid, even though, you know, he hasn't always the last couple of years premiered at number one. But, you know, he is a name that the world knows. People are excited to see Will Smith, and people are interested in seeing what Will Smith is doing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think he reminded us, hey, wait a minute. He's not just the guy that looks cool jumping out of cars. He can actually act, you know.
Yeah, him getting out of the golf cart does not look cool at all when it comes to this.
And also, this is not a glamorous role. And this is not a slight towards Richard Williams, who was just an everyday guy that just had this amazing vision. So it's a little humbling because, you know, Will couldn't be like attractive, charming Will. You have to kind of rely on some other tools to convey the story.
And what's interesting with that is because, you know, a lot of actors try to go into that realm when they're going for awards considerations, right? Like, what's the thing that's made my career a little bit easier? Let's take that away and try to give like a raw performance. Sometimes it can be like way too extreme to the point where it's a little bit more like comedic at times. What I think was brilliant about Will Smith is that he envelops this entire character with so much heart and love for his family, and honestly just generally wanting to make sure that they're set up for a good life and protecting them from what he considers to take them away from that. And that's the beauty with that. And the physicality performance, you can say a lot about it, but it really becomes authentic when his character gets completely shown.
Yeah, and the other beauty of this is Richard is an imperfect man, right? As we all are. And there's a lot of flaws and there's a lot about him that is difficult to digest, right?
Yeah.
And in the scenes between him and Anjanae, it's very apparent because she's the one person in this film that is like, okay, you can do all this mess for them, but you're not going to do it for me. Like, I see you. And I think that's the other thing too, is this is a story about an everyday man that dared to dream bigger. And I think, you know, it's very inspirational for people to see that you don't have to have gone to this amazing school and grew up in this perfect background, that you can come from nothing and dare to dream. And it's and the other thing too is, I like what you said, is he understood that those girls winning wasn't just about winning trophies, but they were the catalyst to uplift the rest of the family. This was either we were going to win as a family or we weren't going to do it. And I think that's another thing too, is because we don't talk enough about, especially Black families, right? There's a lot of talk about baby mamas and all that horrible thing, but we don't talk enough about Black families that stick together, that fight for one another, that believe in one another. And they, as parents, understood we need to get the heck out of this neighborhood. So yeah, I think that's another great takeaway from this film.
And I was thinking also that because there's supporting characters like John Bernthal, who is incredible, is Rick Mackey. I think he was really great. I hope he gets something as far as a nomination. But also, both the actresses that played Venus and Serena Williams were incredible, and I do wish that at some point we shifted that perspective a little bit over. But I think the overarching story kind of has to do with like our take on how we raise our kids and what their expectations are. And like, especially in an age where YouTube is like, there's these family channels that you find out later are being like coerced and weird. And even he speaks about how like he thinks parents of tennis playing kids, they should be shot. I think he said that specifically.
Yes, he did. And you know what? He felt as though, right, as a parent myself, it's a benefit and it's a distraction, right? You want to protect your kids from the world, right? He wants to protect them from the gangs. He wants to protect them from falling to the pitfalls, like, you know, Jennifer Capriati, what happened to her. But there also comes a time where you can't keep your kids in a bubble, where you kind of have to lean on faith and trust. And that's also something that he has to, again, where the wife steps in and says, you have to have a little bit more faith in your daughter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, that's perfect.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the other lesson, you know, we can prepare, we can cajole, we can mold, you know what I mean? But at the end, you have to kind of like say, okay, I did my part. That doesn't mean that, you know, you let your kid go crazy, like, you know, you dismiss your child. And I want to just speak on that. I agree with you. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be like, where are Venus and Serena in this?
Yeah.
But I also think, seeing that they were involved, I feel like for them, they've gotten so much praise, and rightfully so, because what they've done in the sport is just amazing. But because Richard hasn't been as visible these last couple of decades, this is a love letter to their father. This is a love letter reminding the world that
that's a beautiful way to take it.
For him, they would have never become what they became, because he had the vision. Like, people don't know that he, I've been writing a lot about this, so I know a lot about this. They devised this 85-page book for them to become tennis stars before he even knew if they could hold a record, if they had any athletic ability. Like, think about that. That's like crazy.
Yeah.
And also, it just shows you the power of confidence and faith that Richard had. So that's why I think I'm not that upset that we don't see more of the girls, because it's really important to show that.
Yeah. You know, I completely agree with you, and I'll be honest, I did not know that they were produced on, and I probably should have checked that at first.
No, that's
And
fine.
I agree, it's a love letter to him when you look at it through those lenses, and you see like well, who was doing this for who, that feels so true to what the story felt like, with their intentions and stuff. I honestly think this is a great addition to the Will Smith catalog, and I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. What was your rating with it?
I gave it a 9 out of 10, and I also feel like this is very few things the whole family can watch. I feel like the whole
Mhm.
family can watch. There isn't anything going on there that you're like, oh my god, you know what I mean?
That's
And
very true.
also, I cannot say this enough about Anjanae Ellis. I am like a super fan of hers. And she has been doing, as I like to say, that good work for over 20 years.
Mhm.
We saw some glimpses. We saw some of it with her playing the mother on the Clark Sisters movie on Lifetime. I know people going Lifetime. Once in a while, there's stuff that happens over
Hey,
there.
I do not. Our friend of the show, Rachel, does nothing but Hallmark and Lifetime, so I will not knock it ever
Yeah,
again.
you know what I mean? And people get to see her. She's played everybody's wife,
Mm,
sister, cousin, those roles. And you get to see that she, in those scenes with Will, she stands out and she is not playing small or intimidated by
mm.
Will Smith, the superstar, as you shouldn't be. And then, there's a poignant scene where, she is really like, whew, and you're like, and so I hope they've been doing the work, they've been campaigning, they've been
Mhm.
doing what they need to do at these FYCs. I hope she's remembered come award season because well, I'm not sure she would win, but this would be a nice cap on a very long career for her.
I can't say anything better than that. So please check out King Richard when it comes out. This is a family film. Anybody can go and see this. Social distance, make sure that you're comfortable, but go and enjoy. With that being said, let's move into our next review, which might not be comfortable for anybody to watch. This is the opposite of a
Anxiety
family
on
film.
the end, right? Anxiety,
Why
anxiety.
did I pick this as the double? This is the weirdest.
I know we go from fun, calm to like, oh my God, what is
To
happening?
white knuckling your seat, just waiting for the shoe to drop. And with this, we have The Power of the Dog, which has nothing to do with whatever you think that title is. It's an awful title for this movie. Charismatic rancher Phil Burbank is inspiring fear basically into everybody around him. He's got a brother that wants to have a higher level of life or higher quality, maybe a little more pretentious than him in some cases. He brings on a new wife and a son who Phil is just completely against. Is almost tormenting and torturing them in these passive aggressive ways that is making the wife, who's played by Kirsten Dunst, completely kind of going unhinged. His brother, played by Jesse Plemons, is trying to figure out exactly how to balance everything. Meanwhile, with this son, we don't really know much about him. Just that he is not well liked, and this film takes some turns that you don't expect. Maybe that's too much of a spoiler already, but let's just what did you think going into this with your expectations and then leaving? That's a good start.
Okay, so I didn't know. I know it was adapted from a book.
Mhm.
I knew that much. I basically was like, it's Jane, so I'm just going to go with it. Her body of work has shown us that she knows what she's doing. And
Yeah.
I love Benedict Cumberbatch and Jesse. And that cast was like, okay, I don't know what exactly it is, but I'm here for it. So I
Yeah.
saw it at TIFF. Uh,
Oh, so
it,
you've seen this for a while then?
yeah,
Wow.
like I said, I have not spoken to anybody else about it in the public forum other than people like that've seen it one on one because I did want
We win. We win.
to. And you know why. So it's like, okay, and
Yeah.
you kept thinking like, please, everybody shut up and let everybody get to enjoy what you got to enjoy. So
Yeah.
my whole thing with that was it's a different pacing,
Mhm.
but I want to say to people, trust the process. Your patience
Mm.
will be rewarded. This film has so many great things about it, right?
Yeah.
Let's not even get to the acting, but the cinematography is amazing. The editing on point. costuming, set design. It has the soundtrack and the use of sound.
Yeah.
It's things like the opening of the door, footsteps, boot sounds across the wooden floor that help with the tension and the anxiety, right? We're so used to scores that are like, the score in Dune is really, really great.
Yeah.
But this is also a great score. I feel like it's part of the character. It's
That's
like the additional
absolutely.
character, because there are moments where there's no talking and you're like, I don't know about you, but like my heart started racing because I'm like, something bad is going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's always, I think, the idea of something, the shoe dropping, that has you like,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, Benedict Cumberbatch's character, he's a character that instills a lot of fear with not a lot. Like there's that saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick," and he does embody that in a lot of ways. But at the same time, there's a lot hidden in him. Like he's not really somebody that you can decipher on the first go, which is why what you were saying, like you need to have multiple viewings of this to really fully encompass these characters because they're so nuanced. But Benedict Cumberbatch does incredible in this. Jesse Plemons is great, and Kirsten Dunst. I really think that she deserves to be nominated for this as well. For would it be supporting actress or lead actress?
Supporting? It would be
Okay.
supporting, and I think as being the sole female in this bunch of men. I mean, the other women in the film, but she's like the main one.
Yeah.
Kudos to her. And also, what a lot of people don't know, that Kirsten and Jesse are married. So their although you would expect them to have chemistry, and there's some endearing moments in this film between the two of them, it's also got to be hard because their relationship in real life is much more easy, right? Whereas with the two of them, George and Rose, it's a constant. When they're by themselves, it's great. When Phil is around, it's like, and it's also, George has this idea of who he wants Rose to be, that he's kind of like a little bit dense, that he's not seeing that she's unraveling, that her being in this house with Phil is literally like causing her to become, I don't want to say unhinged, right?
I think that's appropriate though, because she does make actions that at the end do prove to be the responses to stuff, right? Like her, I don't know. That sounded weird. I didn't want to spoil anything.
I mean, she starts off here, right? And she gets in that house, and her anxiety is through the freaking roof, right? And she hears things, and it's almost like her mind is playing tricks on her, and it's just a lot. And a lot of this film is internal. So it's not like, she does a really good job of acting with her face.
Yeah.
Like she'll have angst, but she won't say, I'm angst. She'll be lonely. I can say there's a portion where she's a lady of the house, but she comes down, and she went from being like a laborer to becoming marrying into family that has money. They have money. And she walks into the kitchen because this is where she feels more comfortable. And they're looking at her like, what are you doing? And then she's drying dishes. She goes, I like to keep busy. They're like, that's cute and all, but you're the woman of the house. You don't do that. And she's lonely because she doesn't have any female companion. She's certainly not talking to Phil. Her son is away. So this is how she's trying to connect. And Phil, being Phil, knows that she's lonely.
Yeah, and that's where he ratchets the tension. It's even more interesting because I think the subtext for the cooks are kind of like, you're gonna get us caught if you're in this room. Get out. Like, we don't want to deal with his crap either.
Like we're much more modern about it these days. We do for self. But they're like, you're gonna get us fired, you're gonna get us in trouble. You're like,
he doesn't like you, and we don't like you for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also there was no blueprint. Like, she didn't get a chance of adjustment. She got married, and got dumped into this house.
Yeah. And that's on Jesse Plemons' character for not really helping to guide her, but more expect everything to work out. There's a lot of like ignorance to his character,
Yeah,
but it's also based in love. Like, he just hopes that his relationships with both parties will be resolved because of their love for him. Even like, I feel internally that's kind of what it is. But Cody Smith McPhee is the character that I want to give a lot of credit to. That this actor playing the son, his character is very hidden, but also the most gentle character of the entire film. And you get a lot of the heart coming from him. And Benedict Cumberbatch's relationship with him is very strained. It's very weird in a lot of situations, but it's also probably one of the most fascinating relationships that we're going to see in cinemas this year. Just the dynamic of Benedict Cumberbatch's toxic masculinity.
I mean, Benedict is out of this world good in this film. And like, I honestly am like, do not count him out this award season. And he's been pressing the flesh, so he's doing his part.
Oh, he's been going since Imitation Game.
And he's given us another interesting performance this year. So you see, he never plays the same part twice. And the way that he embodied this character. But Cody is the beautiful surprise of this film.
Yeah.
Because you weren't looking for him. You were so enamored with these other folks that he sneaks up on you. And I think with Cody, the beauty of that character, Peter, is the patience, the timing. We think he's the victim, but is he though? And we learn that he's a lot stronger than we perceive him to be, or that
it's strength in his capacity to withhold. Like, he's strong, but he's reserved, and he won't show you his cards. Like, but in a way that's not threatening. Like, he's very non-threatening in any situation. He's much more inquisitive, and he's got all of these side situations that, as you watch the movie a second time, you'll probably get like, oh, well, that connects to this and that to that.
It's all in here. He is, like, when you watch it again, he is mentally taking notes and doing in his Rolodex. He's compartmentalizing everything that happens. And the beauty of him is that because he's not threatening, nobody's paying attention. Like, everybody's like, oh, he's just this guy. He's this soft guy.
Yep.
That's how
I think that's true.
And he's also smart enough to be like, please think that. Please think that. I'm going to own it. And I think he is incredible. Another good example of holding your cards to the vest. Very calm. Right? I think I don't know about you, right? I think people who are calculating and calm are more challenging than the person. I feel like Phil is very outward.
Yes, Phil's very outward, but he also has a mask. Like, his mask is very outward, but internally has got a similar hesitancy. What I've noticed mainly when recounting this with you, honestly, has been like this is basically how a family reacts to an abusive person in the house, right?
Yes.
And you look at like the son situation, where he's more of just trying to be a people pleaser at this point. He doesn't want it. You feel like he doesn't want problems. He just wants to try to make life easier for his mom, and that's that innocence that shines more than anything else.
Also, I'm glad you said it's a family, right? And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like George tolerates Phil.
I think
I think he loves his brother. He doesn't like him. Whereas I feel like Phil, even though it doesn't seem like it because he calls him Fatso,
he's got wonderful vocabulary in this.
Very right. I feel like Phil loves his brother, I feel like Phil feels as though they have a good thing going on, that this is a really nice life. The grown men sharing a bedroom, crazy.
Yeah.
But
like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. We just kind of gloss over that part.
Right? But it's when George says it's nice not to be alone anymore. I feel like if Phil would have heard that, because he already didn't like Rose, if he would have heard that, he would have really lost his crap, right? And I also feel like that's part of the reason why Phil reacts to Rose the way he does, because in his mind, she's breaking up the brotherhood. Whereas in George's mind, it's like, thank God I have a sane person. I have some cushion now from Phil. I mean, there's also a scene where he talks to him about the party and what he would like him to do in order for him to be able to come to the party.
Yeah.
And this is why I say George seems like every time he talks to Phil, it's very labored. Like he thinks about his words. He thinks about his tone, his delivery, how
because he's just a powder keg.
Because he's just not even that, because he knows that Phil is not an easy man. So I think in those scenes, it's the brilliance of Jesse, where it's little things that he does. He sits down, he puts his hat closer, he leans his head. It's like he's taking a deep breath, like, oh Christ, I gotta talk to this guy. You know what I mean?
Right. I've built up the energy for this.
Someone, you don't go through all of that. Like it's even how he walked into the bar, and it's like, oh, I've been avoiding this, but I can't avoid this, and I gotta like.
Yeah. And the way he addresses it, like he can address it well. He just doesn't train anybody else on how to address it. And like he should have.
Yeah. Even when they bring the bulls down.
Yeah.
George is there not because he wants to be. He's like, it's easier just to do this so that Phil will leave him alone.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. At this film, I'm nervous at this point that the next thing we're going to say is probably going to spoil.
No, I mean, that's why I'm like, I'm really trying to pick scenes that don't give anything away. But I feel like this on the dynamic within the two brothers is, you could write 6 pieces on that.
I absolutely agree.
Because I don't know anybody who has such a laboring relationship with their sibling, and I'd love to hear like what that is like, because I have a sibling and we speak very plainly and comfortably, and it's not like, you know, where you feel like you need to have a shot and 2 aspirins.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many relationships in this film where you're like, it's a miracle these people are still like in each other's lives, you know.
Oh yeah, and how they even got to be is another question.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, what would you give this one? What was your rating after seeing
I would give this movie a 10 because it just is so freaking amazing on performances. It's amazing in the areas. They say movie making is a collaborative effort. It's a team effort. And this film shows it. Because if you don't have strong set design, if you don't have strong cinematography, if you don't have good editing, if you don't have good sound, all of that adds to the anxiety and to the beauty of this film. And can we just take a moment how this was shot in New Zealand, and it makes you want to go to New Zealand, and how they found areas of New Zealand to mimic Montana. Yeah. And it kind of helped them because of the pandemic, because they were able to be in this isolated area. Yeah. So it is not that we want to hang out with Phil and George, but that part of the country, I think they want to say, I want to go to New Zealand.
Yes, right, totally. And there are so many scenes where I was like, ooh, that looks a little Hobbitville. Like, I like that.
It's even like the shot where the car is coming down the road.
Yes. Oh, totally.
Genius, right? It pulls you in. It lets you understand how the ranch is so remote.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I've only seen it once, but you're now like, I'm waiting for the screener so I can watch it again.
No, I do think it is, it's a film I am very, and I don't say this, and we both see a lot of films, and we know there's certain films like, oh, this is cool, but I'm not too sure I'm going to watch this again, right? I feel like this is the type of film that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we could be channel surfing. And if we saw this, we would stop and be like, and next thing you know, 2 hours went by.
Totally. This is a A24 film if they did a Western. Like this is, it's a suspenseful thriller. It's got incredible acting, incredible cinematography. We both are giving this a 10 out of 10, honestly, because I there really isn't anything that I could look at and say, I don't think that should be in it or anything it's so like wrapped neatly and the screenplay is perfect. I don't have any complaints with this. So please go and check this out. It's going to be on Netflix and King Richard will be out in theaters. I really want to thank you, Kathia, for coming over and talking with me.
These are two films, like, you know what? These are two films that are easy to talk about. Sometimes you're like, I don't know, but
yeah. Well, when I invite people on, it's not to talk about Clifford. We're talking about real stuff.
In our profession, we're about to get, like, once we get into January, we'll be getting into some things where we'll be like, okay, I get why it's out now. But these two films that's what makes our job fun.
No, it's what we went to movies for, and what other people are missing right now. Like we need to put these ones out above, whatever the big blockbusters things
and
are.
it's also, and we also have to remember why we enjoy different types of movies. I know people in my life that don't like the superhero movies, that don't like that type of stuff, and that's okay, and that's perfectly fine. But they love things like that. And sometimes I feel like we get so caught up in the box office numbers and things that we forget that part of the audience. So this is for you, for all of you that don't want to see anybody jumping out of a building or are just like tired of the whole MCU DC conversation. These are your gifts.
Absolutely. Don't listen to Ridley Scott. Just go check out something right now and you'll be okay. Kathia, please make sure that you follow her and go to Cup of Soul Show. Why is it's getting mixed up?
That's okay.
What are you working on now? What can people be expecting for this week?
I have several pieces coming for King Richard, right? I just dropped my conversation with Rebecca Hall about Passing, another film that I adore. And I have a conversation with Kevin Hart for his new show coming up, and a piece to go with that. So, as they say, booked and blessed. We always pray for being busy, and so I've been really blessed.
Well, I've been blessed having you on the show. Seriously, thank you again, and please come back. And if I don't know when we'll ever do a Pat Chats again, we need to have you on an interview, long form about your career and what you do, what makes you love these films and more about our favorites. So make sure to check her out. Check out patrickbeattyreviews.com for more reviews. All of these Oscar contenders, we just have stacks on stacks of reviews coming out. So check out there and we will see you at the next review.